Okay, we are now recording, and let's go through our quickie items that we don't have any septic system reviews for tonight. Lynn isn't going to be here, so let's see if we can get through first items for meeting minutes of August 13th. Bill, you weren't here. I'm guessing you're going to abstain for that. Lee, how are you with those minutes?
I'm fine, thank you. Yep.
And how about Bill? Are you going to abstain, or are you?
Well, I have to, Dick. Yeah, I apologize. I've had a number of occurrences where our conservation meetings overlap BOH. So unfortunately, I was unable to attend last week. Of course, I'm abstaining.
Okay. And Colleen, I'm good with that too. So they're accepted with Bill abstaining.
Okay.
We can go. Colleen's time sheet is for the August 24th time period, 70 hours, the normal 70 hours for the 2 weeks. Are we okay with that, Bill and Lee?
Yes.
I don't hear anything.
Yeah. Would you say, Dick, 70 hours for Colleen?
70 hours, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
Lee,
normal.
are you okay?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Colleen, I am too, so that's approved.
Okay.
The next one that I have is the payables to the treasurer from the Board of Health. It totals $1,120 for this period, and that's from $920 from Board of Health permits, $200 from Board of Health fees, and that's it. That totals the $1,120. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
No?
Yeah, that's good, Dick. Thank you.
Okay, Colleen, I'm okay with that too, so that's approved.
Okay.
I'll leave. Let's see, the two things that we've got are, we have an appointment, I think, we have an installer's permit from Peter Wilson. And also on this list is a certificate of compliance for 7 Lynn Drive. That is just for a septic tank and a distribution box. Is that all set, Lee?
Yes, it is. All good.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Bill, are you?
Yeah, that's good. Very good.
I am. So Colleen, the three of us approved that.
Okay.
So that's approved.
Okay.
Let's see, our appointment with Peter Wilson is until 7:35, so we'll just hang on to that. We've got, as I said, Lynn isn't going to be here.
Oh.
We've got 12 Jacqueline Circle at 7:15, so that's not quite time yet. What we can talk about before we really start, it looks like the Bill, as you've been saying, these alternate dwelling units are upon us. And it looks like no town can prevent them from being built. They're up to 900 square feet or half the square footage of the original dwelling unit, whichever is smaller. There are some other rules that can be put on there, such as a single parking space, the things zoning kind of.
Dick, did you read the Gazette yesterday?
I did read that one. I did not see that.
Yeah, there was an article. Michael Pill, who's an attorney that we work with from Northampton, he gave a presentation at the Amherst Planning Board, or I think it was last Friday, and he went over the whole nuances of the ADU law. And of course, if you read the article, toward the tail end of the article, they mentioned specifically that certain problems still exist with respect to unsewered areas. So they do recognize the ADU law would clearly benefit sewered communities. But again, we're still subject to Title V. And they did mention in the article the 10,000 square foot per bedroom criterion.
Yeah.
So that essentially prevents people with a 40,000 square foot lot with a 4-bedroom house from adding another ADU.
Unless they go and.
Unless they go with an advanced treatment system.
Right.
So you could go with a nitrogen reduction system and bring it up to 660. So there's ways to do it, but it'd be rather expensive.
Right.
But I urge anyone interested in that to read Monday's Gazette.
We have 2 of them that are upon us right now. And from my standpoint, the 3 things that I'm unclear with, that the 3 of us should be talking about, that one of them is whether we should be requiring, if this thing happens, that as long as there are shared utilities such as shared water or shared sewage, that it's customary for us to say that there'd have to be a deed restriction preventing the separation, the ownership separation of those dwelling units, the 2 dwelling units. That's one thing we should be talking about. The other is, what do we do about a common water supply, and what do we do about a common septic system? We've got, Bill, you've just said the obvious issue it really isn't up to us, is the 10,000 square feet for bedrooms. However, if you look, for the longest time, this board used to have a regulation that said a dwelling unit, a separate dwelling unit, needed a separate septic tank. So that's one thing. Or is there a limit that we want to put? For instance, that if there are more than 440 gallons, design gallons, Granby design gallons, so 3 bedrooms and a kitchen. If there are more than that total, do we say the dwelling unit needs its own septic tank? And the other is, do we say that they can in fact share the water supply? Do we say things like you can't share the water supply if you have a shallow well? There are things that are definitely are going to be on us. And Neil is sitting there on my screen. He's up in my upper left-hand corner. But I know Neil has got a system proposed for Bachelor Street, and Neil would like to know what we're going to do. So, Lee and Bill, what are your thoughts?
And just so you know, it's a detached accessory unit, and it's a little under 400 square feet. Presently, it's not a finished unit yet, but and I don't think they have plans on a kitchen, but I designed it for a kitchen. So if they do add a small kitchen.
Well, here's the question, Neil. How big's the lot, the parcel?
Well, it's 1 acre, so they have a 3-bedroom house. And again, they have a detached garage with a potentially living space, 1 bedroom with a small kitchen. So they would have 4 bedrooms, 2 kitchens potentially, So that would give them a 660. That's what I designed for. And the unit is a little under 400 square feet.
Yeah, but by the state, it would be, so the existing house is 3-bedroom?
Yep,
Okay, so 3-bedroom plus 1 bedroom in the new ADU?
yep,
So by the state, it'd be 440 and you got a 1 acre lot, so you meet the criterion. But
I do, right.
that's the state criterion. So we got to talk about the Granby criterion now.
Right.
Well, when we go through that, Bill, our policy has been that we actually use that criterion for leach field sizing, but we don't use that extra 110 gallons for loading, for ground loading.
Right.
So
So
a four-bedroom house has to have the leaching area for a 550 for 5 bedrooms, but the loading that we calculate for the nitrogen is only for the 4 bedrooms.
Oh, okay, so we're using nitrogen loading by the state flow numbers, correct?
Right, that's what we've been doing.
Okay, that makes sense. So
And
Neil,
actually,
you design the
if you're-
system for 550 or 660, whatever you decide. But again, from a nitrogen loading perspective, 4 bedrooms on a 40,000 square foot lot works.
Right. And so they do meet the state requirements because I have designed for 2 kitchens and 4 bedrooms.
I thought, and pick it around, Lee and Bill, I thought the easy way in my own mind, whether it's the good way or the wrong way, is that we've got so much experience with the 3 bedrooms on a septic tank that we ought to be saying if it's going to be bigger than 3 bedrooms in the kitchen, 1 kitchen, or say if it's going to be bigger than 440 gallons, Granby gallons, then it needs the ADU needs its own septic tank.
Well, I think that goes, yeah, I think that's a very reasonable call from any perspective. Any ADU should have its own septic tank.
Okay, so
I
that's
agree there.
the plan.
And that's what you did at Miles over on Phillips Circle, Neil.
Exactly.
He's got
Yeah,
his own septic tank, so that's been established.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So that we've got, Lee, what is your thought on it?
No, I'm hearing the whole thing, and I agree 100% with the direction we're going in on this thing.
So the 3 of us agree to that. I'm also looking if we're not careful and we say that they need their own well and their own septic, their own SAS, then we in effect shut them down. We stopped it on a 1 acre lot. No one's going to be able to do it, or a half acre lot. No one's going to do it. My feeling is that you say they can use a common well and they can use a common SAS. Lee and Bill, what are you thinking?
Oh,
I'd say
are we going to require water testing with the Commonwealth since they're renting from the property owner?
As long as you're going down that direction, can we say that let's go after a problem that we know we have and say it can't be a shallow well besides that you fix that shallow well problem at the same time? And
I would agree on that for sure.
Yeah, a bachelor street is a artesian well, so.
Okay.
Bill, I'm not hearing from you.
Well, I'm thinking, I got a couple comments here. And you mentioned something earlier. this ADU, this will be part of the parent parcel, not subject to subdivision at any point in time, correct?
Well, that's my feeling is, as we talk through it, that we should say that as long as, I'm not sure how that you can just say it can't be subdivided. Let's say they had city water and sewer, town sewer. I'm not sure that the Board of Health would be able to say, well, we're not gonna let you subdivide anyways. And without that being a zoning issue, not a Board of Health issue.
Well, again, that's the whole point of the ADU law, is it circumvents the zoning. Now, the other thing the ADU law states is there's no requirement that the ADU be occupied by a family member. So you could actually rent it out to anybody. Anyone could occupy the ADU.
Right, and that goes back to what Lee was just talking about.
And that's what they're doing in Amherst. The big thing in Amherst is, listen, if you got a property in Amherst, you put up an ADU, couple of bedrooms, you can get $2,000 per bedroom per month from a college student. You can make pretty good money doing that.
Right.
And that's what people are going to be doing.
So it looks like what we're saying, though, is that you do say that if there's a common well or a common part of the septic system, it can't be subdivided. We've got now that it's going to have a separate septic tank. It's got to comply with all of the loading, the state loading for nitrogen, and has to have a deep well, a bedrock well, and now we get to the point of providing water to a renter, which is what started this little discussion we're in right now. That what's a reasonable water test? You think a reasonable one is before the thing is occupied, and then every year you have to redo it?
Have to redo what?
Water test.
So you're saying an annual water test for these? That's not unreasonable.
If you're renting something to someone and you're providing a utility.
Okay, how about if it's not a rental? How about if it's your mother or mother-in-law? So the point is, if it's a for-profit operation, they'd be obliged to have periodic water testing. And from a liability point of view, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Lee, what is your thought? I could support that says if there is rent involved, then it has to have a yearly water test.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah, if it's your, whatever, if it's your, like you said, your mother-in-law, your daughter, friend, whatever, then it's a family. But anybody who is paying for staying in that facility on your property, then yeah, I think the water test every year is a reasonable approach to this problem.
Yeah, Dick, if you asked O'Toole, Brian O'Toole will tell you, yes, that's a good idea.
So as long as we're talking about that, we've got several rental places in town. Should we be just saying that all rental units have to have a yearly water test provided to the renters?
Why not?
Well, hold on. Let's take a look. Dick, why don't you recite the public water supply criterion?
The common, so if an owner is supplying water to a renter, then once a year, the water has to be tested. What do we want to call it? A Title V water test?
But the point is, Dick, this is more severe than the 60 days with 25 people average per day. The restaurant, this is a little different than the restaurant requirement for water testing.
Yeah, the water, but theirs is more often, right?
Yeah, I think they're quarterly. Yes, they're quarterly. So we're not as severe as that, which is probably a good thing. That's right. That's quarterly.
But it just would mean that we've got several fourplexes that I don't think anybody tests anything.
Well, that's right. That's right. The fourplexes fall under that 25 person criterion, we believe.
Right. So
That's
they're
right.
not public water supply, so they could be supplying water that's totally unsafe to drink, and
Right.
no one would know it.
Good point. Not that I like imposing a bunch of regulations, but this is probably a good health and safety one we might want to consider
Yeah,
implementing.
especially since we're what's prompting us is this ADU. And then so now we're at a point that Neil, who's sitting there saying, what are you guys gonna do here? Now Neil actually has something to work on.
So Neil, you got your marching orders.
Yeah, so I basically have to add a tank, right, to this plan?
You're gonna have to add a tank, and they're going to have to do the deed restriction work that says that as long as the water or the septic system or any part of the septic system is shared, the property, the units, the dwelling units can't be subdivided. We have to be careful because we can't say the property can't be subdivided. Let's say they put it's on a 5-acre property. Then the property could be divided, but the dwelling units can't be divided.
Right. Well, this is a 1-acre lot, so they couldn't subdivide it anyway.
Well, they could. You don't know what's going to happen in the future, but in our town or the state could do stuff that says, oh yeah, that can be. Or let's say that it's not. It's this one. Let's say it was on a 2-acre lot or a 1 3/4, whatever it is. Then someone says, yeah, I really want to split this in half. So if we just say, regardless of what the size of your lot is, that's just the rule. You're going to lock it up. So you can't split it away. So that's what you have to do.
So,
No,
this
no.
regulation, limits the size of the dwelling that can be put on the property, correct?
It does. It says that it can be, but it doesn't have to be the way they have it written down. It can be a modified garage. It can be part of the original dwelling unit that they changed. It can be a new dwelling unit. It basically says this thing is fair game to do anything you want. But it is limited. It is limited to not more than 900 square feet or 50% of the size of the original dwelling unit, whichever is less.
Okay. And we are, let's make pretend it may not happen. Let's make pretend there's rental property in town anyway on 12 Bachelor Street, just for the heck of it. And the people renting that house now put in a 900 square foot dwelling unit, which also becomes a rental property. And then the person in the 900 square foot unit decides that he is gonna squeeze in a spare bedroom to whomever and rents that out within his rental. You know what I mean?
Oh, you mean like like an illegal sublet in New York City?
Exactly. Yep. Same concept.
Just tell them to impose rent control. No, not really. Hey, listen, there's one other thing, Dick and Neil, you're gonna have to think about the water distribution system. You gotta be very careful the way you do that. You cannot simply do a Y at the pitless adapter. You have to tap the line after the pressure tank. Otherwise, you're gonna have a problem. So be careful the way you design the water distribution.
Right.
You see
Okay.
what I'm saying, Dick?
Yeah,
Think about that. It's not that simple.
yeah, we haven't, as it turns out, we haven't said any place that the water system has to be designed to support the intended use. We haven't said that. And
I would say
maybe,
the water distribution, realistically, if I were Neil, I'd have his plumber take a look at the design for the way you're going to split the water off on this house, because it's going to be somewhat tricky. You got to be careful the way you do that.
I think they already have it split, so it's going to the garage presently.
Okay. But anyway, it's going to be rather expensive, because if the ADU is 150 feet from the well or the existing house, you're going to have a line, frost protected line, 4 or 5 feet in the ground. And that's a pretty good undertaking.
but if you look at these people, where the governor thinks that this is going to be a whole bunch of free housing, cheap housing, I'm going to guess that if I built one of them, I certainly am not going to have my house and say, I'm going to build this little ADU and I'm going to rent it out for $250 a month. I don't think that's going to happen. On my lot,
No, you got to
it's going to
remember
have to
this
be a
thing.
couple $1,000s a month.
This thing is geared toward Eastern Mass, where the average home price exceeds $1 million,
Yeah,
and property is very, very valuable.
right. So, okay, so we did get through that. It's now 7:28, which means we're definitely into the time where we've passed the 12 Jacqueline Circle time, and Alan Weiss isn't coming tonight. So let's go.
No, Al's here, Dick.
Oh, he is.
Hello, Al.
I see him.
I
Okay.
thought I saw his name there somewhere. But your 7:15 is here.
So let's do the 7:15. And so that one is 12 Jacqueline Circle and the inspection that was made. And Colleen, when you put this on the agenda, what are we supposed to be determining at this point? We had someone from Northampton do the inspection, and they wrote the orders. Is that correct, Colleen?
Yes, that's right. In fact, JJ Pruzak is here, and yeah, I think at the last meeting the board had a couple questions for her, but yes, they sent out the correction order. So I don't know, JJ, if you'd heard anything back or. You're on mute.
Certainly that were put out, JJ. I don't know if they were yours, or I think they were yours. They weren't. It wasn't a very pretty environment.
No, and my coworker is here too, Donna, who has a lot more experience than I do. But yeah, we didn't receive any specific questions from the board. I don't know if that was what the question was, or Colleen, is that what you meant when you?
Well, the board last time had said that they had some questions, so I'm not sure.
Okay, that one of the things I think as a board, what we in terms of authority and what we're passing on and what we're not passing on. Lee and Bill, my question, and at least even my opinion, I'll throw that out and maybe we can start by talking there. My opinion is that the inspector, who is a qualified inspector, ought to be in a spot and also experienced, ought to be in the position that he or she can issue orders, and so they give the complaint, they do the inspection, they do the complaint, and they issue the compliance requirements. And in my view, that's what we should be passing on to our inspectors. And I would think that we would be doing that to Lynn also. For us, again, this is my opinion right now, just to lay on the table for us to talk about. But if it comes down to condemnation, at least in this town, condemnation is not a very frequent occurrence, and the board should keep the responsibility for doing the condemnation. That Bill and Lee and JJ and Don, whatever, there's some opinion. Let's blow holes in them.
Let's see. So I would say, yeah, it's up to, we came in and did the inspection and gave, documented what we saw, but we would think that it's up to your board to decide what to do from there.
Dick, or JJ, is the house occupied?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe there are 4 units. One is unoccupied. We inspected 2 units, and the third person wasn't there, so we couldn't get into that 3rd unit.
Oh, okay. Dick, I'm just going historically from the first time I was on the Board of Health back in the late 80s. I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe we've ever condemned a building or a dwelling unit actively housing individuals. Is that correct?
Probably not. I don't know that that's an absolute number, Bill, of
But like you
zero.
said, it doesn't happen often. That's for sure.
No. So that's why when I looked at that, I said, gee, that's such a big event that the board should be actively involved in making that decision. But let's push back a little. So if we can say, it sounds like we could agree to that. But if we talk about JJ going in and finding the front door of the unit doesn't have a lock in it, and she said that needs to be fixed in 30 days, and I'm ordering that to be done. And then she looked and finds that the toilet is overflowing, there's mold all over, and she said that is absolutely intolerable, that has to be done in 24 hours. That, are we in a spot that I am very comfortable with giving JJ, or I'm just using JJ because she's the one that did that, but JJ that authority to speak for the board and say that the board is absolutely going to stand behind her, and her word is one that's enforceable. But Lee and Bill, what are you thinking about that?
The question is, why isn't the landlord at this hearing tonight?
Well, let's talk. Let's move this for right now. Let's move it away from this particular one. Let's talk about, if we can, get through the policy part of it, and then let's move back into this particular situation, if that's okay. Lee, I don't hear anything from you.
I'm doing a lot of thinking. Isn't getting me anywhere. So
JJ, how many days ago did you folks do this inspection?
We went on August 2nd, so the beginning of the month.
okay, and you met the landlord.
No, we have not met the landlord, and I haven't been able to contact him. I can't find a phone number. We sent a correction order to the work address that we found, but I can't find a contact phone number to even talk to him.
I'll have to see, I may have a phone number for him. I
Yeah.
can,
What's the address of the property?
12 Jackie Lynn Circle.
Oh, okay, that's the old Nabala house. Okay, okay.
Yeah. So
JJ,
at
I'll
this point, in
get that
time,
phone number to you. I
the-
think I have that for the,
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that place has been sold a couple of times in the last 2 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Again, we're trying to get us so that we don't get on that one yet. If we can look at the policy and just let us all understand what kind of authority we're giving JJ. And remember, this was an issue that got Lynn tangled up too. And so we worked hard to make Lynn be in the eyes of the community knows that Lynn was part of us and spoke for us. And if we're gonna use, again, I say JJ, but I mean it a bigger view of JJ's position than just JJ. If we're gonna use them, are we gonna let that inspector be able to issue orders and make it so that they're enforceable, and the board is just gonna say, come what may, we're gonna have faith in that inspector, and we're gonna stand behind that person? Or are we gonna say, JJ, you do the inspection and send it to the board, and we'll do the paperwork and the orders? So Lee and Bill, what are you thinking?
okay. Well, if we go down that path, which is, fine, I think, where do we end up? And it's not my money, it's none of our money, but where do we end up if the order to condemn the property is agreed upon by this agency, and that means that no one can live there, and the town of Granby is responsible for housing these individuals off-site? Where do we go from there if that's what we end up doing?
In
other words,
just so
does the
be
town of
clear,
Granby
Lee.
have to pay this guy?
Actually, the landlord should be financially responsible for their housing.
But
Okay.
when we started off, my proposal was that the board keep the responsibility for condemnation. Since it doesn't happen very often,
Right.
as Bill says, maybe never. So we should not give up that authority. But my proposal is to give up everything else to the inspector.
Okay. Okay. I mean, yeah, this is their area of expertise. Not any of us have this background. We have to, I guess at this point, we have to give a little bit of rope to this organization to make some corrections for all parties concerned. as far as a health and safety perspective goes.
And I
I'm
would see
guessing
that
we should-
as Lynn
we-
sitting
we
right
all-
in with that same thing.
Yeah, okay. As part of this, do we CC in, town council or at least the different boards that do inspections unless it's automatically done as far as the building inspector, fire, plumbing? To understand the scope of the corrections and have them done, meeting current local and state code. Unless that's already a given, I don't know how the whole thing works through. How many of these, similar situations have you guys dealt with in other towns?
This is our first housing that we've done outside of, well, in this collaboration.
Okay. Okay. So how do we know that we're proceeding in the right stream here to get everything done, cleaned up, fixed, safety of the tenants priority, but also not stepping on whatever rights, of course, that the owner, the landlord has as well.
Well, I'm
No,
gonna ask you,
it's
JJ, in keeping with what Lee just asked. When you look at your chain of command, does it end up, for instance, does Meredith review these reports? Is there somebody that reviews them and said, yep, those are in keeping with the requirements that the state has, or the accepted standards that Northampton has, that somebody has, that in terms of what Lee just asked, that we don't end up with an inspector that ends up in way out in left field and everybody's in a lot of trouble without knowing.
Well, we have to go by housing code, and I worked with Donna on this because she's done many housing, outside of Granby, so, we didn't run this one by Meredith, but, I worked with Donna on it.
Okay, so you guys, within your system, you've got a system of checks and balances that says, yep, we're within accepted norms here. And, we're not out in a spot that all of a sudden some lawyer's gonna come and get us and say, whoa, you just, broke someone's rights, and it can happen anyway. Doing it the right way, we can still get in that kind of trouble, but at least you're not standing out there alone. You've said, gee, we've done the common sense, take a look at it, and how does this fit compared to what normal is?
And I think if you can hear me, and I'm Donna Bowman.
Yeah, I can see. Oh, that's right. I'm the only one that can see you. And Colleen can.
Yeah, like JJ said, we strictly, when we're doing housing inspections, it's strictly by Massachusetts Housing Code. So there would be nothing in our orders or of correction that would be anything outside of the scope of the Massachusetts Housing Code.
That's really good. And Lee, in terms of what you just made a comment on, that's definitely way, way, way better than I could.
Right, absolutely.
Well, I don't hear you. Are you with us, or are you doing one of your other projects, Bill?
No, Dick, I'm thinking, Donna, a housing code, what is it? It's 410 CMR something or other, or is it, what housing code are we using?
Correct. It's 105, 410,
Okay,
CMR.
105, yeah, okay. Now, I think in the first part of that, do they have condemnation criterion?
Actually,
that-
it's towards the end of the housing code.
Yeah, actually, if you could read that to the board, because Dick, this is the kicker. So if they wholly affect the 105 CMR 410 Mass Housing Code, they're actually responsible for the condemnation and not necessarily the Board of Health. So Don, if you'd be kind enough to read that pertinent section, that would be great.
Okay, give me 1 second. I'm just going to pull it up.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Donna can read that, but I'm just saying, at this point, I'm uncomfortable that if we have to have a special meeting, that JJ and Donna said, this is really so terrible. We have to condemn this immediately. Someone's going to get killed if we don't do something. It takes us, in fact, if it's really crazy, we can even violate the 3-day notice if it's really an emergency and we post it as such. But even normally it gives us 3 days. And if we do it not, expeditiously, the worst it is 2 weeks. So before that trigger gets pulled. But go ahead, Donna, if you've got it, you can certainly.
Thank you.
Right. And I also want to just let, according to the correction that was written by JJ, there's nothing in there that says it should be condemned at this point. It's just the violations that were found. I'm looking at the correction order now, and I'm not seeing anything in that says that this should be a condemnation at this point. I think that moving down the line, if there's further inspections and things aren't corrected, you may get there. But right now, I don't see anything that states it's a condemnation.
Okay.
So it's 410-650, and it says, it basically says finding that a residence in a portion thereof is unfit for human habitation. If an inspection conducted pursuant to 105 CMR 410 or 105 CMR 410-600 reveals that an occupied residence or portion thereof is unfit for human habitation, the Board of Health shall, subject to 105 410-650B, C, or D, issue a written finding that the residence or portion thereof is unfit for human habitation. The finding shall include a statement of the material facts and conditions upon which the finding was based.
Okay, that's excellent, Donna. Thank you. Dick,
Yep.
that's actually good because it kicks it back to us for administrative
Right.
review. That's perfect.
Right.
Thank you.
So my concern is already in statute. So now, if that's the case, from my standpoint, the reason that I was interested in having you folks here, Donna and JJ, mine were not so much about this particular property, other than the fact that where were you guys? How did you feel in a way that you didn't feel hung out, saying, I don't know what we're supposed to do here. This is JJ, as you said, this is the first time that you're doing this thing. And we went through this last year. We absolutely went through this with Lynn, saying, I don't know if you know Lynn Dinez, but Lynn was saying, I'm kind of stuck. I'm kind of in between. I'm here. You're paying me to be here. But when I talk to someone, when I go into a restaurant, I don't know that I've got teeth in what I've said, and can I tell someone to do something, or do I have to come back to you? And for sure, it was unsettling enough for Lynn that Lynn said, I really don't want to do this job. It's just not fun to be in this spot. And I wanted to make sure that you folks and this board said that you understood where you were with this board and how we were going to support you, what we were going to have you do. And from my standpoint, where we're going as a state says that that the 3 members of this board are dinosaurs, and that the state is definitely going to say, let's have everybody being handled kind of the same way by trained, skilled people. And just because you're elected as a member of the board doesn't mean you're qualified to do a housing inspection. And the state is clearly what there's the whatever the 150-page paper that says we ought to be going with the shared services. And this is exactly one of the spots that the state is saying, this is what you get for benefits of that. You get some skilled people doing this work, and the people in your town are treated in a proper way. So Bill and Lee, that's my feeling about what we're gaining with this shared services program. And I'm thinking, in this case, that it's working just the way it's supposed to be working. And we're, unfortunately for Donna and JJ, it's probably our single messiest one. And it was one that Lynn bowed out, that she said because she's working full time at another job, trying to untangle this one was just needs somebody that's being paid to do this kind of thing for a living. So you guys are in the middle of if we can get through this one, the rest really easy.
Piece of cake, yeah.
It's by far not the worst we've seen. I can say at the beginning of your what you were saying, Richard, is that I think it might have been a little confusing when JJ said it's the first one she's doing. It's not the first housing inspection she's done. It's the first housing in Granby that she's.
Granby.
I didn't want it to come.
Okay.
Never done an inspection before. She's done plenty of them, just not in Granby. Not in Granby.
Okay. I actually understood what you just said is what I understood of JJ. So and I saw her. She doesn't look like she's sweating there, saying, "Oh my God, they caught me on my first one. I fell on my face and they caught me." So I don't see that in her face.
Okay.
So are Lee and Bill, are we set with JJ and Donna right now?
Yeah, I think we've covered the bases. We know the way the chain of command is going to be set up, and I think it's going to work out very well.
Lee, what are you thinking?
No, I'm thinking same train of thought as you two guys.
Okay.
I think we have a good start, the right people in place, and proceed.
Okay. Then we'll thank you for coming and visiting with us.
Okay, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Good to see you both. Thank you.
Same here.
Take care.
Same here.
For concerns, please feel free to reach out to us. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Have a
Will
good night.
do. Donna, JJ, thank you so much. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
You will.
So our next item is I've got Alan is still here. We probably is Peter Wilson. I'm just looking. I don't see Peter Wilson here.
I'm here by phone if you can hear me.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Peter, looks like we're definitely late with you.
That's
so
all right.
asking,
I understand you guys busy agenda tonight.
Yeah, and it wasn't supposed to be, but it is. Before we give out a new installer's license, we talk to the installer, and we don't have a test. We really Lee is Bill Shaheen is here, and Lee Lalonde and me, Dick Bombardier, 3 members of the board. And we like to basically get a pretty good feeling for the skills and credentials and actually some attitude of a new installer. That Lee ends up doing the inspection, and so we start off. We'd like you not to get in trouble in our town, and we'd like us not to get in trouble because you got in trouble in our town. And so, and septic systems for us are very important. They really do protect almost all of our homes, and residents are drinking from wells. We've got a lot of wetlands where so not getting people sick and not hurting the environment are very important to us. So
Certainly, yep.
when the first is, what kind of experience do you have? Have you been doing installations for a long time?
Yes, I want to say I go back to the mid-90s. I've had licenses in Amherst, Northampton, Pelham, Shutesbury, Leverett, Belchertown. I've not ever worked in Granby regarding septic install.
Okay.
I believe those are all the licenses I've used. And so originally, if you go back far enough, can't think of his name, who used to be the Board of Health agent in Amherst, Zarazinski, Dave.
Oh, Dave Zarazinski, yeah.
Yeah, so it goes back a lot of years.
Yeah. If you were to guess, how many septic systems were you actually in charge of installing?
So I was thinking about that on my ride home from Northampton today. Honestly, I don't keep track of them, but I would tell you that probably over the last 30 years, we probably have done 30 systems. I don't do them every day, but different projects in different towns or cities, is where our next project lies.
Yeah, not thousands, but not 30.
No, not thousands. No. And I'd be lying to everyone there if I even said, was it 32 or was it 29? It's like I honestly have not counted them, but I do know the towns. Yeah.
But it's kind of one a year is what you're doing.
Yeah, and there may be an occasional year where we might do two, just depending on the project. I think we've worked out in Ware as well, because we used to do some turnkey work for the home store, which took us a little further away from the center of Amherst.
Are you on site supervising the actual installation?
Yeah, I am part of it. My brother and I are the two principals in our operation, and we both are there when we do the installs.
What do you use to shoot grades?
So we use a laser.
Okay. Are prints something that you're really familiar with? That you use prints for every other parts of your job, or is it just once a year that you look at prints?
Are you specifically talking about septic system plans, or are you talking in general just building plans?
Yeah, building plans and septics, looking at grades and elevations, and I'm just trying to get a feeling that when you pick up a set of prints, is it something you say, yeah, I don't know, this looks more like an air.
Oh yeah, no. We've been.
Drawing.
Yeah, sorry to jump in there. No, we've been building since '87. So both Harry and I review the plans or prints, other details related to whatever it is we're building. Both Harry and I, but typically I do most all the excavating, because we do all that within our operation. So all the site work, all of that. So yeah, we pay a lot of attention to the plans. Well,
when
you know, to be honest with you, the only things we really sub out, again, it's all predicated upon how busy we are with projects. So we will have a couple of other subs come in, but primarily, this is a house I'm building for myself in Granby, and we, you know, automatically all the electrical, plumbing, HVAC are subbed out. Insulation typically is, but not always, and same for drywall. Typically is, but not always, depending on how many projects we have going and how we can manage the schedule, of course. But those are typically the ones we sub out. In this case, I had to drill a well, so that was subbed out, of course. But if it were town water and sewer, we would do all the tie-ins because we do emergency sewer and water repair. And we've done that, you know, going back the last, I guess it's creeping up on 40 years now. So,
what kind of equipment do you have?
so we have bulldozers, excavators. In fact, I was out there to dig the deep holes on my particular lot because of the elevation change. Backhoes, bobcat, dump trucks. We've got specialty equipment like asphalt grinder, you know, the zipper.
So
We've got one of those
stuff.
we use.
You
Yeah, we've got a
definitely
bunch of
have
stuff. Yeah. We've got other stuff like landscaping rakes, you know, that will loosen the soils that goes on. We've got probably 10 different attachments that go on the Bobcat.
Okay.
But primarily those are the items. We've got, you know, a couple
Okay.
large front end loaders because we also commercial plow snow. But we
Yeah.
wouldn't have anything
Where is
that we
this?
wouldn't have something that big.
Yeah, where is the system that you're putting in?
So it's lot B. It's the lot I bought from Jim Naraki over on Lion Street.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, so it's a sandy lot.
Yes.
Oh, a lot that
So if this,
that's all that we've met before.
yeah, if you're Dick, then we've met because you were out there when I did the deep hole, redid the
Yeah.
deep hole testing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's our smaller excavator. We have one smaller than that, but
Okay.
that's what I use to dig those.
I'm Lee and
Dick, is that a 60,000 square foot lot? Is that in the water protection zone or no?
no, that one is ended up that it did fit when you looked at the state requirement versus Granby requirement. We did go through that, and it's he was going to change the number of bedrooms, and he didn't have to.
I got you. Okay.
But I meant for Bill and
Yeah.
And
Oh, I
Lee-
know. Yeah, I know where those properties are.
I have met with this gentleman, with Peter, and I'm very convinced after seeing him and listening to him and, you know, dealing with what we did on the site and what he was talking about and what he understood while I was there. I'm very comfortable
Yeah, yeah.
that
Jim,
Peter
what's
can
the
handle
name of your company?
Wilson Construction.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, you do a lot of paving, don't you?
So that's another Wilson out of Chicopee.
Okay, it's another
We
Wilson.
do
Okay.
some paving. That's another offshoot because we do offer to our commercial and we have probably a handful of industrial sites where we do concrete and paving work.
Okay.
All part of excavating and site work that we provide.
All right. Because I think in Belchertown years ago there was a Tom Wilson.
There could have been.
That might have been a third Wilson.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, Dick, you're
no
familiar with these
relation,
folks.
but-
Lee, do you have
I'm sorry?
questions?
No, I think we're got the questions out of the way. A lot of experience, sandy lot. So, you know, betwixt and between, it should be a good relationship.
Peter, I have one question for you that I asked. It's not so important on your job, but in the event that we're not giving you a license for just this one job, but in the event that you've got a drawing, you're going to do a job and you get on your machine, you start digging and you find out what's in the ground isn't what the print says is going to be in the ground. What do you do?
I would first call the designer.
What I would try, that is a good answer, but the other part of the answer is that we're in this together. You've got the license, so you're going to end up being the one that gets hung with it if it's not right. But the Board of Health needs to be involved too. That because we approve something, and when you, as the installer, says, gee, what the board approved is not what's here, then at this question we ask every single person that if the job heads south, you want to make sure that your customer's lawyer isn't having the Board of Health as a witness. You want to make sure that your lawyer is the one that's having the Board of Health as a witness, because we all said we know what's going on. We've talked this through. We're in it together. We're going to make the thing work and follow the code.
Oh, no, I clearly understand. So I should have answered both. Typically, in my experience, if I've had any issue with how the design has been laid out, elevations are incorrect, or we find something, I first go back to the design person, and then normally, typically, they talk to the board. So that's why that was my initial instinct.
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, you got into an issue with that, with your designer on your lot. So we had to go in and fix it.
Yeah. I mean, as much as I tried with Bob to tell him from the very beginning that we had to pull that knoll off so that we could get the lot straightened up, so to speak, leveled up is really the answer to be able to go forward. So, yeah, you know, I wish it had gone a little sooner, or a little smoother, but anyway, in the end, we did those test holes, and it's a nice sandy gravel.
Yeah, I'm okay with Bill and Lee. Are you okay with Peter?
Yeah. Who's the designer, Peter? Is it Bob Stover?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Bob.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. Again.
And I know Bob going back to Fred Filios's days.
Oh, yes,
that takes
I've
us
known
back
Bob
to the mid-'80s.
30, 40 years. Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm good, Dick.
Okay.
Yeah,
Lee, you are too?
Absolutely.
Okay, you're set, Peter. Colleen, we're set.
Okay.
We're all set.
Okay.
Have a good night, Peter.
Thank you. Thanks for
Okay,
coming
you too.
in.
Thank you again.
Yep, bye.
Okay.
Bye now.
We've still got some things let's go at one that's maybe easy. We've got a complaint that I'm skipping over the Title V. I'll go right back to it in a second.
What about, Alan and, Josh for 725? Or
Okay.
that's to do with the Title V though, yeah.
Okay. We've got Alan, I didn't know you were actually going to come, but so we've got it. This one's on Dairy Mart. So we've got a system. Colleen, this comes in from a couple different directions. One is you have the owner basically begging to get an operation. So we've got a septic system that wasn't working in terms of leaks, from what you said when you were saying people have complaining about the sewage smell back there. So we got a pump chamber that's no good, a pump that's no good, and a sewage just filling up the septic tank and filling up the pump chamber and coming on the surface, and a leach field that appears to be not very used. So we don't have a design in front of us. As I asked I had a conversation with Alan today about a couple of different things, but one is according to code, this operation is not a single family or two family house, which says that whatever the repairs there has to be, if it's a pump, it's supposed to be two pumps.
That's
with a
right.
standby- with a
Alternating
standby
pumps.
power
That's correct. That's correct.
supply. But two pumps and a standby power supply. So we've got a repair that's not in front of us to talk about, and we've got a renter who, it's my understanding, a renter who would like to start his operation with a septic system that absolutely doesn't work.
Dick, just to interject, and again, I've done a few of these in my day. I would consider waiving the standby power system if and only if the well is also powered by an electric pump. Because clearly, if the power goes out on site, the only water you're going to get out of the system is the rest of the charge in the pressure tank. So as long as you have your 1 day reserve in your pump chamber, I don't believe you need a backup power supply.
Okay, but that's not in front of us yet. Alan hasn't proposed any. I guess this particular, when it comes to it, if someone says, well, I'm also going to propose a single pump. And we look at this thing and say, you know, this whole mess we have here wouldn't be like this if they had the second pump working there and controlled. But anyway, we're not at that point yet. We're out at a point that maybe Alan is looking for some guidance on what he's going to propose.
I'm curious whether or not they have enough property to put a leach field in a location that is not the existing location for the leach field.
But the leach field, Alan, you said that the leach field is good, right?
Yes, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, yes.
So I did a Title V. This is a 20-year-old system designed by Mr. Sheehan. Sorry, my bad. And yes, it is a single pump system, septic tank to a single pump chamber system to a D-box and leach trench system. What we found was that there was no sign of failure in the leach area per se. There was some root intrusion in the D-box. And then as we go backwards, the pump was not working, so that was overflowed. The pump chamber was overflowed. And then the septic tank also overflowed, obviously, because that's up the line from the pump chamber. So we're looking at a pump chamber, at a component replacement here, as I recommended to originally to Lee, that includes more likely than not a pump down initially of the septic tank and the pump chamber. And then we probably and my guess is that it is a 1,500 gallon tank. We'd find that it's a 1,000-gallon pump chamber, like the design says, with a single pump. And we find that the D-box with some root intrusion can be rectified with simply a new D-box and some root pulling. So going back on the system to the pump chamber after the D-box, if you go backwards, sorry about that, but I'm going backwards. We can talk about changing the design, but Dick brought that up to me today. I hadn't really thought about that. And then we're assuming the septic tank's still okay. Now, you can also talk about the septic tank in the same way because, well, that doesn't meet the way we would design it today either in terms of being a single chambered 1,500 gallon tank. So I don't know how far you want to go backwards on the redesign here versus just component repair. And that's kind of where we're stuck.
So Al, to best of your knowledge, the only failed component is the electric pump, correct?
That's pretty much it. Yeah, it needs a good
Okay.
pump and it needs a pump repair and alarm repair. The way it's worked for some 20 years or so, I guess, was sufficient. My understanding is in the store, there's the store and there's an apartment upstairs that's 1 bedroom that met your bylaw at the time with a 2 bedroom, configure calculation for the kitchen. And that's kind of what I saw in the design. I'm just a little bit perplexed as to what to propose next. Would it be simply to make the components that are there today functional, or are you talking about a redesign all to meet all the code requirements? And that's kind of where we're at.
Is the tank, Alan, is the tank below the fact that the entrance to the tank below the water table?
No, I don't believe the soil evaluation, I believe, called the groundwater around 40 inches. So I think the inverts are all set above the water table, meeting code. The tanks did call for ballast back then. So
I don't know whether my system shut down or yours, Alan.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I was the only one that couldn't hear you.
Yeah, Dick, you're losing signal periodically. We're losing you a little bit.
Okay,
it's
I'm
me.
trying.
Somebody dropped out.
I'm going to head upstairs where it's better. I hope that helps.
Yeah. Al, I'm curious. So was the audible alarm working at the time of the failure of the pump?
I have no idea. We couldn't check either, quite honestly.
Okay.
It was all flooded, and I think, the circuitry was probably shut down due to that. So there's no question it needs a pump it down and a good look by an electrician at the very and a new D box, assuming the septic tank's okay.
Mhm.
Another
Right, there was
little story here.
They could have had a leaky toilet or a leaky sink or who knows.
Yeah, but there's another little story that I was told. I'm purposely not gonna ask the person who involved. In fact, if they even are here today, but I'm going to tell you a story about this owner. And the person that was maintaining the septic system told the owner that this system was in trouble and it wasn't working right. And the owner chose not to address the problem. So this owner, in terms of coming up with a system that, that requires a friendly observer to say stuff isn't working right, as compared with the duplication that the code requires here to say, we're not going to trust the owner's going to do that perfectly right thing. We're going to design in some amount of robustness that I could support your stand, Bill, saying that as long as someone didn't put a generator in to make sure they had heat and water and didn't supply power to the septic system, then not having the standby power as part of this design, I could support. But in terms of not putting the second system in, the pumping system, I don't think I can support that.
Yeah, I agree. It should have the dual pumps.
I mean, just as an observation, the water was an inch from the ground, all the way around. And as we walked towards the back of the SAS, some of the pine trees were a foot across at the base. So, you know, it was put in some years ago, and hasn't had much, if any, maintenance since.
No, we really don't.
I mean, the tank itself, the D-box itself needs work. The pump chamber needs 2 pumps for sure.
Yeah. If you have root infiltration in some of the pipe network, those roots should be carefully removed if possible.
Yeah.
If possible.
Well,
Yeah, I'm
Or
concerned
at
with
least
it.
cut off so they don't continue to grow.
Yeah. And since the pump hasn't worked,
Tension.
yeah, you don't know that system was working. It may not have been working at all. If the pump worked, maybe it would up and it squirted out the vents. Who knows?
Right.
Like maybe the pump failed because it deadheaded because it couldn't pump. Everything was all plugged up there.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know. You don't know anything about it. All you know is that the pump wasn't pumping water up into that hill, and the hill was dry. That's all you know. But it could be a hill of roots.
If I could, may I speak?
Sure.
I guess what I need from you folks would be some direction as to what you're looking for a submittal. And I'll leave that. If you need to discuss it further, that's fine. But that's about where I'm at right now as to how to proceed.
I think where we are right now is we're saying you don't need a second, you don't need a separate power supply. You do need 2 pumps. You have to figure out whether the septic tank is no good on top of that. And what we're struggling with right now, Alan, is whether we're gonna say someone's gotta look inside that, take a representative look at the leach field and see if it's, been attacked by the roof. Is that what we're saying, Lee and Bill?
Yes. The whole thing
That's
needs
what
to
I'd
be-
say. I'd say, open up the D box. And possibly, Al, do you have a small portable camera? Can you camera the lines easily enough?
Of course, that's exactly where my brain was going.
Yeah, that makes good sense. See if the lines are loaded with roots, Dick.
Then we're gonna see. So if you look at rather than destroy the SAS, if you look at it from the inside,
Yeah.
Bill, you said certainly if you've got trees on the perimeter that the roots are headed over there, you should do something about those. And then once you start pumping water, then you're going to see whether it really, after a few different cycles, you'll see whether the SAS is functioning. So it looks like Alan does have a direction for him to go, but how about the owner? Do we want to do anything to provide relief for the owner? For instance, what if the owner came to us with a request that said, do me a favor, let me pump that tank out, the septic tank. Let me pump it out, and every 2 weeks, let me pump it out so I can stay in business until.
Yeah. Run it as a tight tank for a couple of months, of course.
Lee, what do you think of that?
In the spirit of being cooperative, yes. But historically, when we give people breaks, they break our back with it. We need some type of a document drawn up that forces the hand to do just that. And I don't know the person. I'm not criticizing the new owner, but we need them to toe the mark at all times so that we don't repeat what we just ended with 6 months ago. That somehow the gravity or the height, whatever it was, forced the liquid into the system, not functioning, onto the surface. And we don't want it to just linger for another year or two in that fashion without having some control to shut them down or whatever to get the job done.
I would propose that we set a time limit. Well, before I set the time limit, I think what Bill said is something that we would say, okay, you want to run it as a tight tank. You've got controls out there. You've got alarms. They're going to a pump chamber. But if we're going to turn, let's say we give to October, November, December, the 1st of December is the end of when that could be run as a tight tank. And the alarms have to be set up in the septic tank that have it set up that we get the warnings of the tight tank saying, hey, someone pumped this. And then the other warning that says, we're shutting this building down because the tank is too full. That we actually turn it into a tight tank with its alarms and controls. And then put a limit that says we're not going to let it go beyond the 1st of December.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
What I think I'll do is recommend that Josh and I go back and do part 2, which is to go back, pump everything down, take a look at the septic tank, camera the D-box, look at the pipes, and then make a recommendation on where to go from there.
Okay, but from the owner's standpoint, what we're saying, Alan, is that turning that septic tank into doing what you need to do to turn it into a tight tank with controls and alarms, and I'm guessing what you'd end up having to do is block the outlet so it can't flood again. But set the thing up so he's got a 1,500 gallon tight tank that he can run until the 1st of December, and then the system has to be installed by then and operation. That gives you time to do stuff, but at least it puts him in a spot that if you get his conversion and get it pumped and ready for him to use it as a tight tank, he can get in business.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's more than fair.
Okay, so are you going to put something in writing or no?
We will.
Okay.
Paulina will write something. So
Fair enough.
But at least your part of it, you've got to do the investigative part of it. But also, so you've got a little job if the owner says to do it, is to turn that thing into a tight tank that with alarms to make it a regulation, not the 2,000 gallons. You can't do that part of it, but the control part of it. So it complies with the tight tank regulations, get it in the store so people know someone sees it. And just let them know that we would let them get started And I'm guessing they would like to have something happen. I don't know what's happening to the rental property, the guy who, or the woman, whoever, the family, whatever it is, upstairs that's trying to flush their toilet. That they must need relief. So, but that part, turn it into the tight tank and for up to the 3 months, that would have to be between you and the owner, right? That's not, the Board of Health is allowing that. We're not telling you.
I'm not sure what you mean by that statement, but I understand what
But
you're
what I'm saying,
allowing.
what I'm saying, Alan, is you don't work for us. What we're saying is that we're now speaking for the owner who said, help me, I'm trying, or the rental guy, the store owner, saying, please, I need to get in business. So speaking for him, we're saying the way we would allow that to happen in this situation is you pump the tank down, the septic tank, you turn it into the tight tank for up to the beginning of the 1st of December. But the only person that can authorize you to do that work is the owner. The Board of Health says if someone wanted to do that, we would allow that.
Mhm.
But we can't tell you to do it.
Yeah.
Because the owner may say, I don't want you to do that at all. But that's
I'm a
up
little
to the owner.
puzzled though how it would meet the tight tank rules and that there's not an alarm in there now. And there's not, all the other components that we normally talk about.
It's kind of under an emergency repair provision. I
Yeah,
think you can
okay.
leave it in that, yeah.
But you would have to put the alarm in there, and there's alarms out there. If you look, the system for alarm is actually there for the pump chamber. So an electrician ought to be able to say, okay, I'll temporarily
Okay,
put the floats or
Yeah.
whatever.
I understand. I thought
Yeah, you
earlier
could just
you
move
said
the
to put
just move
cap
the
on
floats
septic
over.
tank.
All you have to do is move the floats over. Real simple.
So we're trying to get us in a spot that the long-term repair gets done and upgraded, but that the owner who is really begging to get some relief, so he owns the place, he says he's paying lease on it, and he's trying to get in business, and we're trying to help him get in business.
That's okay.
Okay?
Okay, Al, thank you.
Thank
Nice
you.
to see you. Okay.
All right.
Dick, no pun intended, but the only reason the system is working now is because you got 8 feet of hydraulic head because the guy lives on the 2nd floor.
I know.
If the guy lived on the 1st floor, he'd
It
really
wouldn't
be in
flood.
trouble.
That's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's right.
never
Yep.
worked.
So so their licenses for tobacco and food, you're going to allow those then?
Well,
Or-
it's not until the tight tank system that we agreed to is functional. Because at this
Okay.
point, there is no septic system for this
Yeah,
system.
yep, okay. Functional, yeah.
And at this instant, we just said that we would allow it, but Alan hasn't asked to do it. So the owner hasn't asked Alan to do this. We just
Mhm,
anticipated that they would want to do something. So
mhm.
that's where it stands.
Okay, got it, got it.
We've been one that I think we can, maybe 2 of them we can deal with kind of quickly. That we've had a complaint at 16 East Street from Sandy can odors when the Winehouse porta potties are pumped. I don't know how you guys feel. I drove over there. It looks like the Sandy cans looks like they're more than 100 feet from this house. And when I looked at it and said, okay, so someone's gonna pump out whatever once a week, once a day. I don't think it's once a day, but let's say once a week. A truck comes in and pumps it out. They're there, I don't know whether they're 15 minutes, an hour, and they're gone. It's not and if depending on the breeds or whatever, it's not something that's ongoing. It's part of pumping out the Santa can on a program that won't be there forever. I don't think that we are guaranteed that we won't smell anybody is guaranteed that you won't smell anything that you don't like in life. But I don't know. Lee and Bill, what are you thinking about this one?
I'm not sure if it's a weekend, Saturday morning event, or because the person's home. I don't know. There's no way to resolve this because they may be home all the time. So there's never going to be a day where they're at work, you know what I mean, till 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And as we all know, depending on the temperature, humidity, it changes the outcome dramatically.
Yeah, here's the question, Dick. The reported event, was it done first thing in the morning? When did they pump this out?
I don't know. I don't. Colleen didn't.
Oh, I think he
report-
said it was in the morning, yes.
Yeah, because typically early in the morning, the winds are pretty calm. It's probably best if they do it midday or a little later. That's when the winds tend to pick up. But again, it's just observation over time for myself. The air tends to be still early in the morning.
You know what we could do? We could have Colleen get in touch with Jim Prompty and ask him until we get the toilet straightened out. Could he try to have them pumped out when it's breezy?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
just ask him, see if he'll
Yep.
cooperate. More than likely, he knows about when it's going to have to be done, and if they just try to do something, that we could maybe make the situation a lot better.
So have him get them pumped later in the day, or what did you say?
No, ask him if he could try to work with his supplier to have it pumped out when it's breezy.
When it's breezy? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay,
see if he can try to do that.
okay.
It's worth a try.
And it might get rid of 90% of the problem. See, let's
Yes.
go. Let's go through Title V. I have some problems with the Title V. I've got some notes on them. Maybe we can wing through these things what I should do is quickly give you a report on Dollar General. I did get in touch after Colleen got the note from Colby Taylor, the lawyer from Dollar General. Turns out Colby worked for Dollar General. I don't know what a lawyer two is or whatever her title was, but she said she is not a contract person. She works for Dollar General. She said she apologized for having her situation there get this far, and that it's really the letter that Colleen sent that apparently moved it up through their system that ended up going back into Colby's hands. She did arrange for Tyler to get in touch with me. Colby assured me that he didn't want to be in the middle of it. She definitely was happy to have the Board of Health and Tyler work together. She ultimately said before this is done, oh, she did say there are probably 3 different entities involved, and the board didn't have to worry about it, that there was at least the owner, the Dollar General, there may be a different owner of the building that's involved, and that's not including the original engineers, the secondary engineers, the Tyler Avery's company, and she said regardless of all of that, the Board of Health would not see the fact that there's an issue with how the dollars will move around, that the Board of Health was only going to see that it got fixed. And she said she was committing to get the thing fixed. I did talk to Avery, to Tyler Avery. He is going to supply us with some working kind of drawings that we can review. And what, in a subsequent conversation, Colby Taylor told me the only thing before it went ahead and got done, that she would like some kind of agreement between Dollar General and the Board of Health, that if whatever the agreement was, that we would say, that's a good faith thing, we think it's going to work, and we're not going to come back at them and say, oh, it didn't work, you have to do it all over again. But she recognized that a different board could have a different opinion, but she was just trying to get something in principle saying, we all agree that this fix should work.
Yeah,
So,
they want us to agree to the one bite at the apple solution. That's the
Yeah.
problem. Now, secondly, Dick, as business people, what they did is exactly what you'd expect. They know that we got them somewhat on a leverage bar at this point, saying that if they didn't say what they said, we would rescind their tobacco license going forward. So they're essentially they've done what they've got to do from a business perspective to get us to release their tobacco license. I'm going to predict, Dick, next August, we're going to be in the exact same boat. I predict nothing will be done within 1 year. That's my prediction.
let's figure out how we make that be an
Let's make it not happen that way.
That's right. And be aware that our track record with this is we've been told at least once before, don't worry, this will happen. It'll be mano to mano, and we'll work as you did the milestone chart and say, okay, we're going to do this,
Yep.
and everybody.
Yep, that was 2 years ago. That was 2 years ago.
And then we find out that we can't even find Tyler. But
All right, what is,
but
how about a 6-month only tobacco license?
be a worthwhile kind of thing that because that's coming up soon, right, Colleen?
Yes, I've sent the applications out. The existing tobacco licenses will expire the end of September. So the
So
1st of October, yep.
Yeah, so Bill, I don't know what you're thinking about it, but it certainly, maybe we don't even do 6 months, maybe we do 3 months, maybe it depends on how soon Tyler gets back to us, but we're gonna have to make up our mind pretty soon.
I agree.
But maybe 3 months is better. That says, okay, that's the way we just keep everybody on a short leash.
I agree. 3 months is fine with me.
So we haven't made it so it was illegal for them to do anything, but we've at least said, you're on our mind. Okay. In terms of Title V, we've got Oh, we did it. We did the dairy mark. That was my first one.
Yeah.
But the next one I have is, maybe we do an easy one. 54 Ferry Hill Road, that was a pass. I did talk to Alan, but Colleen found out, so that's a 1,500 gallon septic tank. Colleen did manage to dig out the design. It is a Title V designed a pump system, and it's 4 feet from the bottom of the SAS to the water table. So that was, we didn't even give a 3 foot, 4 foot to 3 foot variance for that one. The only question is an old septic tank, and I don't understand. I thought we had a regulation that says on Title V inspections, the tank would always be pumped, so we could look inside the tank, or you could look in, Lee, and see if the tank's in good shape. But I'm seeing like this one. In fact, when I asked Alan how come it wasn't pumped, he said, well, it looks like the town of Granby doesn't have a regulation that says it's supposed to be pumped. And I don't understand it.
That's just normal practice in this business that they pump the tank on inspection. That's standard practice.
Yeah.
So Lee, you're the one that sees it.
I was under, and I don't know why, but I was under the impression that Josh was simply going to, because Josh was there doing the physical opening of the components, and I was under the impression that he was going to cycle back with his truck later in the day when time permitted. But
So
clearly I
someone
missed
could
that.
look in it. So, okay,
Right.
maybe what happens is we just have to tell the inspectors that thing, by the time you show up on the job, Lee, that it's got to be pumped. And recognize the problem with it is a double-edged sword. If that's what happens, you don't get a chance to see that the level in the tank is the proper level.
Yeah. I mean, it's rare that the tank is not done at the time that I get there.
Okay.
And I think on this one here, I think what happened was that we spent the first part of the morning at Cindy's, and then we ran down to Union Mart, and from Union Mart we shot down to Ferry Hill Road.
Okay.
And Josh was doing all three, so he was stretched out pretty thin.
Yeah.
Which I think is how he got to the point that he can't be in 3 places at one time and chase his equipment.
Yeah.
Because at Cindy's he was in the backhoe. He just left Union Mart with the same backhoe, and he was supposed to be swinging back to the office on East Street to grab the pumper truck.
Yeah.
And he ran out of time and vehicles to move himself around.
Maybe the answer, Lee, is to do it that the inspector has to be the one that after you've seen the tank, that the inspector has to certify that he's seen the empty tank and it's in sound condition. And then it can get done after you're out of there.
Yeah, that's on the inspection form, Dick. That's right on the form.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alan would be the eyes if we ran out of time. And I think what happened in this case was that we tried to do 3 inspections in the time permitted to do, theoretically 1 only.
Yeah,
And Cindy's was a deep pull, logging the holes for the future expansion.
yeah. But I see in the
And the
next one that I wanted to talk about was 31 Cold Hill Drive, and it looks like Greg didn't pump that one either.
Because they weren't going to continue, as far as I know, Neil is going to have to do some design work up there.
Oh, you're right. When you read that one, they've said that the tank was no good anyways. You didn't have to pump it because they knew it was no good to start.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, so I guess we accept.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
Cole? Could you explain to me what you just said about the tank at 31 Cold Hill Drive?
Oh, we actually didn't get into 31 yet. I just said that wasn't pumped either. But we're going to be done with 54 Cold Hill, and then we can move to 31.
Thank you.
Mhm.
30. Actually, you know what? So we can just leave. So we can just accept 54 is okay as a pass.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's reasonable to continue with the normal function of doing a Title V to have that pumped. And either Alan or myself can be present at that time.
Yeah. Okay.
Since the normal process was interrupted.
Yeah. So the next one that I have, and we've done 7 Lynn Drive. That one we accepted. We are going to go 30. We can do 31 Cold Hill. That one is that's Greg, and his is one that says Board of Health needs further inspection. But that one is I don't have it right in front of me, but let's talk about a 70-year-old system. Greg says it needs Board of Health inspection. He says that the kitchen and a sink and a laundry goes into a separate unknown system that looks like it's sitting on top of a perimeter drain. So it looks like that probably goes wherever the footing drain goes to. The septic tank is in bad condition and some 70 years old maybe, and it's too small. The leach field is indeterminate. It looks like 2 lines coming out of the septic tank without a D box, just a T, and don't know where at least one of the lines goes. He says that the SAS is at 42 inches and the water table's at 64. He didn't say that the bottom of the SAS is set, but he did say it's only a 20, in the one spot that he saw, it was only a 22-inch separation, but he doesn't know the size of this thing. And it looks like this is really a terrible failed system that doesn't comply with code. And Greg is saying the Board of Health should just reevaluate. What do we do on this one? Do we just say that this is, and it looks like he said maybe 40 or 50 years ago something was done to the leach field. So we're too close to the water table. We probably have some of in fact, he says some of it doesn't even, effluent doesn't go into the septic system. Some of it, and that one looks like it goes directly into a drain, a footing drain.
Dick, there's not a second septic tank. There's only one septic tank.
He couldn't find it.
I guess, the story goes that Bob,
Excuse me again. So, I'm co-owner of 31 Cold Hill Drive. So
Hello?
you couldn't find a septic tank? What could you not find?
Whoa. We don't, you have an engineer that you hired. That kind of question has to go to him. What we're
Okay,
doing is looking at the report that the engineer gave,
okay,
and he didn't say it passed it or failed. He said that the Board of Health needs to investigate it again, and what I'm doing for the board is saying this is what it said in the report. And in a case like this, my belief is, in a case like this, the Board of Health needs to be saying that system needs to be replaced because it does not comply with Title V, and it's going to damage the environment. But that's what I think. And that's why I'm bringing it up for Lee and Bill to talk about it too.
okay, thank you.
So what are you,
Well-
Lee and Bill, what are,
Neil
we know
did
that-
some deep holes. And they talked about the fact that, Bob Rule, modified the system, I don't know how many years ago, keep it going. The lot's not as deep as one would think. There's a wetlands in the back that was flagged. But I got the impression the way Neil was, having Greg do different holes, that they were, knowingly heading towards, the next conversation, which would be, designing a new system for this location. I don't know why we're getting a needs further evaluation when it was,
clearly a fail?
fairly, absolutely.
So from that standpoint, is that the way you see it too, Bill?
Neil, how were you involved? Did you do the inspection?
No, I didn't do the inspection. I did a soil evaluation. Basically, I was there to determine water table. So we didn't have a 3-foot separation from the bottom of the leaching area, the SAS. We didn't have 3 feet from the bottom of the SAS to water table. So I believe, Greg, I mean, that's not failure criteria for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but because you only need, you don't even,
1 inch. Yeah. Do you have 2 feet of separation?
I don't remember if we had 2. We certainly didn't have 3.
Now, the next issue is there a D box?
There's not. It comes out of the tank and it tees to 2 clay lines.
Yeah, well, so that's a problem. You can't look at the invert level out of the D box because there's no D box.
Right. So you'd have to look at that as one trench, basically.
Yeah.
So
And they're clay pipe, Bill.
it doesn't meet failure criteria. I mean, the town of
Well, that's
Granby.
what I'm saying. Has the system been in continuous use over the past few years?
Bill. Say the system, say there's a whole other system that's dumping in the footing drain.
Right. Yeah. Everything's not going into that system.
Is he sure that it's going into a footing drain? Did he see that?
Right above it.
Yeah. There's
Bill,
2
if
pipes.
you ever, I don't know where you're going, Bill. This is one of the worst systems we've
Well,
ever seen.
again, I'm just wondering why Everson threw it back to us. It's so obvious. Something doesn't make sense here.
Well, because the system's functioning. Is it old? Yes. Is it going to support 3 bedrooms? Probably not. But I mean, you know,
Where in Title V, well, Neil, I can't ask you, this not, be careful, because if you're gonna defend Everson, then
Well, I'm
you're
not-
gonna also, if you're gonna speak for him, because my concern is no place in Title V does it say it's okay for the sink and the laundry to go into a hole in the ground with a perforated pipe that's right above the footing drain. No place does that say that it's okay. And Greg can say that, and Neil, if you want to stand there and say you've got a spot in Title V that says it's okay, then you ought to go find it.
No, I am not agreeing with that. I think I can't speak for Greg, but I believe he feels that system may be functioning at the time of the inspection. And again, is it a good system? No. Is it a system that the town?
If that type, if you better not be going there, Neil, because if you're going to defend them, because if that footing drain goes into the storm sewer in the street, then maybe Greg's got to go there with people from DEP and let Greg tell DEP, when I inspect, I think it's okay for sewage to go into a surface drain. When I inspect, I'm going to say that passes.
He thinks it's going into a perimeter drain, not a storm drain.
Now, does a perimeter drain discharge in the wetland out back?
He didn't determine that. We did hit the pipe that's headed towards the wetland, yes, but we couldn't find where it daylighted. So there is a pipe.
It probably doesn't go to a septic tank, right?
Oh no,
he didn't find that.
No, I don't believe it goes.
Sewage is supposed to go to, when you do a Title V, again, you want to defend Greg, get ready, because we're going to be talking about if you're doing inspections and saying it's okay if sewage goes down a drain that probably goes to daylight, but it definitely doesn't go to a septic tank, and that's okay.
That's
according to Title V. If you think that's okay, then we're going to go at your inspections the same way. Because Neil, it's not okay.
Okay, that was okay. No, I think Greg's point was the SAS itself is functioning. So he can't fail the SAS because it doesn't have 3 foot of separation.
Now, when you guys go out, you're not looking at a house septic system. You go for one little piece and say, I'm going to pass this house, even though I know there's parts of it that are breaking the law. I'm going to put my name and stamp on it saying this complies with Title V inspection, even though you know that it absolutely doesn't.
Neil, why isn't Greg at this hearing tonight again? Greg should be here with us.
Don't know. I mean, I wouldn't have passed the system either. I wouldn't have passed the system.
So from our standpoint, Bill and Lee, in a case like this, what Title V said, well, in Greg's standpoint, he threw it to the Board of Health, and he bypassed it and said, I'm not even going to make a comment on whether this fails.
Well, why don't we invite Greg to our next meeting in 2 weeks?
Well, I think we don't. I think what Greg gave us is enough to say, as Greg says, that further investigation from the Board of Health. It doesn't take all of the effluent from the house isn't going to the system. Some of it goes in a different place. It's too close to the water table. The tank's not in good condition. It's too small. For all of those reasons, it says this meets our criterion for us sending out a letter to the owner saying that the system requires replacement. That's what we normally would do, and it's according to what we have for power by Title V.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
So it is my understanding that a Title V is required if you are putting your home on the market. Is that correct?
That is one of the reasons that you would do a Title V. The Board of Health can also require a Title V to be done for a reason that we would see that said, boy, we think someone should take a look at that. And now we've got one. Now it's been done so that it's not something that the Board of Health can now say, you know what, we don't care, we're not going to see it. We're going to make believe this didn't happen. But that would be the Title V would typically be involved with selling up a house, or if you were to increase the use of the house or change the number of bedrooms, change what you were doing for the load on the
Yeah, Dick, if there were an interfamily transfer in accordance with the specific criteria and in the code, if it was interfamily, they wouldn't even need to do the Title V.
That's correct.
Unless the board had reason to believe that a Title V should be done. Because
until this Title V was requested to be done, you had no reason to have it done.
So who initiated this Title V to be done?
Deborah Peliquin initiated it.
It doesn't really matter. Where are we headed? We've got a system that's no good. It's not being used, and it shouldn't be used. It's not good. It's doing something bad for our earth and for the people that live around there, and for maybe the people that live in the house.
And so what will the town of Granby require to be done?
The septic system has to be designed and installed. That's what we typically would do.
Lynn, who's Diane Peliquin?
Deborah Peliquin is my sister.
Okay.
My sister and myself are now owners of 31 Cold Hill Drive.
Okay.
Just so
We're just trying to gather information. I'm not.
Yeah, what really we're in a spot that it's a system that's an old system.
Yeah.
It's not protecting the environment well at all. It's a system that it may even be that the house would have trouble being put there now, but that's not, the house is there. And so the issue is the thing that it's a really old system that needs to be replaced. And the typical time that people replace them is when houses typically when it fails and people can't use their house, or if the house is going to change hands, that you say, okay, this is an old system and we have some old systems, but and they still work, but that they're usually in better soils.
Okay.
Yeah, in better soils than this. So it's in reality, it's tired and old, and it really does need to be replaced.
Okay, well, I thank you for answering my questions and taking the time to listen to me. And it's, things that I'm not all aware of. So I've learned a lot listening to this conversation, and I appreciate everything that all of you have given to me as far as information goes.
And in reality, what we would expect, and that what surprised Bill and it surprised Lee, is for an inspector to be saying very much the same thing, to say, gee, this one part of it looks like it would comply with Title V. And you have to be careful that Title V requirements are so generous that they're made so that a person that's not an inspector, it's just a system inspector. He's not someone, it's not someone that's qualified or licensed to design septic systems that work according to Title V. It is in fact somebody that in many cases installs septic systems, and Title V gives the list of, let's say, 10 different things that are so bad that, that Title V says, if you fail one of these, your system fails. You don't need to be an expert. You just need to be trained to do these inspections. But in terms of figuring out whether the water table is at a certain level, you're not trained for that. And so what Title V does do is it says, okay, Board of Health, take what the information that inspector saw, and now you've got the power and hopefully the expertise to look at that and say, you know what, it didn't meet one of these horrible things that made it fail this test, but in
Okay.
reality, it's got these other things that make it so it's not protecting the environment properly. And the board then can say, it doesn't matter that you passed, and this one it didn't pass. But so that's where we are. And
Lynn, I'm glad we could help you tonight. I'm guessing you're hearing what you didn't want to hear, but I think we're giving you good advice.
Knowledge is power. So
yeah,
Okay.
it's good to know what things that you don't understand that are new to you, and to hear what's going on. Just know that if this wasn't required, if it was a sale between siblings, and this
although we would have more than likely something like this would have finally come up. Somebody, as you come along, as Neil was saying, that pipe that goes out of your footing drain
yeah,
goes out into the swamp someplace. As someone else starts using the system, the house, and all of a sudden your neighbor sees foam out in the swamp, then someone says, gee, how'd that get there? And what this smacks of is that the septic system wasn't working. So someone said, you know what? We can sneak this into the footing drain and get it to go out into the swamp, and instead of putting it through our leach field and overloading it. So we'll
it's
cheat
an
and
old
get it.
system. It is it is old, and there are different things, and so I'm grateful that I was able to zoom in and listen and hear everything that's been going on, because I'm not present at the time. So
Yeah, and that's
I appreciate all of your time and your effort. I really do.
okay. And that's one of the benefits of having the Zoom sessions, is that
Yeah.
so many more people can come and visit.
Yeah, right. If you can't be there in person, then you
right.
can participate otherwise. So thank you
Absolutely.
very much. Thank you,
Okay,
Dawn.
Lynn,
Have a good
thank you.
night.
All the best now.
Okay, thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Have a good night.
You too.
My next one is 539 Amherst Road. It's close to my heart because I lived there for 5 years or so. And that Title V is one that the system was repaired. Alan inspected it and passed it. And I had a conversation with Alan today about it. The house isn't being occupied, and what he found is a reasonably small, I'll call it a cesspool. It went in as a cesspool, and with it's in sand with a 500-gallon dry well after it. And when he looked into it, there was no water in either tank, and the house hasn't been used for a while. And the discussion that I had with Alan is, you know, Alan, I happen to know that the reason that this is a Buddy Bristol repair that used to be done in that area, and they were all cesspools, and they would all fail. And what they would do is put the piping in the cesspool to turn it into a septic tank. and then put a dry well after it. And I said, you know, Alan, if you look at it, since I'm the one, and he had the paperwork that you see, I'm actually the one that took out the permit. So the system failed, it backed up into the house, and because the cesspool wasn't working, and Buddy Bristol put the 500-gallon tank. And the discussion that I had with him is, you know, Alan said, you know, the code says you can have a dry well with an overflow. I mean, a cesspool with an overflow. And the discussion I had with Alan is, Alan, if you, instead of looking at the fact that it went in as a cesspool, it's been converted into a septic tank. It's got an inlet T, outlet T, going to a 500-gallon leach jet. And I said, he said, well, then it fits the rules of an overflowing cesspool. And I said, cesspools don't have inlet and outlet baffles. I said, its lot in life is a leaky septic tank. I said, it's no different, in my view, it's no different than an arch cement septic tank. It's leaky. And he said, well, it was a cesspool. I said, but that's not what it is today. It's a septic tank. And so that was our discussion. And he said, well, as far as I can tell, it's a cesspool that I won't look at the pipe. And so the discussion was, you know, what it really is and what the board does with that. And my feeling was, I would look at it from the Board of Health, my position on the Board of Health, saying, no, it says that it's an undersized, leaky septic tank that needs to be replaced. But so what are your thoughts, both of your thoughts on that?
I guess, Dick, conceivably, you have a conflict of interest on this one.
No, because I haven't owned it. I don't make any profit on it. It's been whatever 40 years since I've lived there, so I don't have a conflict. There's nobody in my family that lives there. There's no way that I can have any financial gain from anything that gets done on this house or loss. I have no financial or political.
So what did Al check it off as passed?
He checked it as passed.
Oh, he did.
Yeah. So that's why I'm discussing. Lee, you were there. What is your thought? Or you saw an empty tank?
Well, both tanks were empty, and he recognized, and when they didn't go in the tank, but they took a series of some high-powered lighting, and there was no evidence of staining up the wall at all. That doesn't tell us how many people have been living there lately. It may have been one person only, who was quite elderly, I believe. But anyway,
well, I said that Alan, there were 4 of us that lived there. It's possible that an old lady would go in there, and maybe the cesspool would start working as a cesspool again.
Well, that was the question. I didn't consider the analogy that you made about the overflow, 500-gallon overflow tank, but that's a good analogy. I wasn't considering that at all. The woman who was there trying to represent the last homeowner realized that it hadn't been used and that it was going to need some potential future work in down the road, depending on what became of the new owner and the potential discussion at the meeting about whether or not it was going to go on the way it is or need something to be redone to help it survive. So in these situations, there's hardly, as you know, there's hardly any backyard there at all.
Right.
I don't know if the tank itself appears to be some type of a homemade, even though it looked like it was structurally good.
Oh, I thought what it is a block. It's like a block that
Okay.
of cement, actually cinder block, with an open bottom
Yep.
and a concrete top that they put boards across it and poured the concrete on top of the board.
Okay.
So in this particular case, what I'm wondering is that when I talked to Alan about it, I said, given what he looked at and what you guys looked at, then maybe you do come to the conclusion is, gee, this is a cesspool and it was working. And then if you look at now what the Board of Health brings to it to say, see, the Board of Health witnessed that tank being full, the cesspool being full, right? I can guarantee you, I climbed down, I dug the hole, and the water was up over the top of the inlet. So it failed, and that's the reason. And all of those that have the 500-gallon leach tank that are after them, all of them had the same problem. They failed, and then Buddy Bristol would, to save people money, turn the cesspool into a septic tank and put the 500-gallon leach pit after it.
Yes.
So that is what the history of them is. That's how they end up getting there. So once so I know what I witnessed it failing. And
Okay. Well, and that then to me becomes data that was previously unknown.
You didn't have
to
it.
Alan and to myself, but the fact that as a board member you have witnessed the failure, then that changes the determination of whether or not there was any failure criteria.
Right. I agreed with Alan that is the case. The fact that that you could see the inlet and outlet keys still doesn't tell you that you've seen a failure. All you can say is that the tank had been modified, but it still at that point would still act like a cesspool. But in this particular case, that what I'm saying is that I witnessed it. That was the reason for the 500-gallon tank is because it failed, and and that my belief is in this one we should be saying that the cesspool needs to be replaced with a 1,500-gallon tank, and then the SAS should be reviewed 3 to 6 months after rehabilitation. That's what should be the requirements for this one.
Well, and that makes sense. Again, given the fact that this knowledge was not previously disclosed.
Well, that's what I told Alan. I said, "There's no way that you could have known that from what you saw for, your observations wouldn't let you get to the conclusion very well. Especially not having grown up in that area for my, the better part of my life. I know what happened to every one of those that got in trouble like that. So,
Yeah.
so that's what my suggestion is. is that that's what we take this Title V and say that it needs, the cesspool needs to be replaced with a 1,500 gallon septic tank, and the SAS has to be reevaluated 3 to 6 months after rehabilitation.
After it's fully occupied, yeah. And the woman who was on site, whoever it was, I don't know if she was a relative or just a friend, was just there running information back and forth with no idea what the outcome would be or could be. Alan did mention the fact that there would be further visits by the board. But again, because of the unknown history, then that helps the decision making change going forward.
Yeah. And actually, from our standpoint, we should probably tell them there's probably still 6 or 8 of those around in that neighborhood. I think they're almost all been cut now. But
Yeah.
So Bill, can you go along with that we just change that, send them, have?
Yeah, I'm reading I just looked at the code. Would it be straight? I know it's tight sneakers there. Now the groundwater is way down, correct?
Yeah, it's probably 30 feet down.
Okay, so that's not a non-issue. So I guess remove the cesspool, put in a septic tank. And again, if they want to do it in a gingerly fashion, they could probably use a plastic tank there and get away with a plastic tank because buoyancy is not going to be an issue.
No, it's not. That's right.
Right, so that might be a slick way to do it without bringing heavy machinery around.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. In fact, if you remember 2 or 3 houses down to the west, there was a house that actually 2 houses down, that they were tucked right against that same bank.
That's right, yeah, because they came before us and they came before conservation a couple of years ago, right?
And it was a problem that trying to get that done.
Right.
Because the soils they're not very stable soils and they're close to the bank.
Right. Okay.
So that's what we're gonna do on that one, Colleen.
Okay.
But Lee, in terms of you going in on that whole neighborhood, if you find any more that have an old cesspool converted back to the septic tank with a dry well after it, you know that what happened was because the cesspool failed. And it was a way to just do it. Buddy used to do it cheap.
That was standard modification in that neighborhood back in that time frame.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. I mean, good to know because I just saw 2 dry components. And
you want to know, there's not a chance in the world that you would know that.
No, not being from the area.
Especially having someone, a single old person living there and have it vacant for a long time. The whole thing is just dried out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good to know. Thank you.
Okay. We're getting 9:30. We have
one more Title V.
One more Title V, and I'm trying to find it.
Shame on you, Colleen.
I'm looking for, I think the darn thing fell off my agenda, fell off my table here, or my couch that I'm sitting on. I don't even have the agenda anymore. Well, maybe you could tell me what it is, Colleen.
It was 155 Burnett Street. Robert Norman did the Title V, and it was a pass.
That's the old off your residence.
That one, I have to I have to question that one, Lee. I didn't see that one. But that system was in a swamp. That those soils back there were so dark that you can't even see water table in them.
Dick, is that on the
system that we-
Pitchawam swamp side or the
It is.
uphill side?
It's on the, if you're driving in from West Street, just before you start down that first hill, this house is the last house on the right. And the system is down in the back, and it starts into what, in fact, there were fruit trees up in there, but that was all.
Yeah. We found some glade soils down there years and years ago.
I'm guessing that there was glade soil here in that spot, but I don't know what you guys found, Lee.
We were up on.
And I don't think this guy's a soil evaluator either.
The system was up on the flat, just off of Burnett Road. We weren't down the hill.
Oh yeah,
whatsoever.
there is a house with the system way up top between the house and the street.
Well, there's one if you go down.
It's next to the lot that Dakota Richards is building out.
Well, those. If you look at the ones where Dakota Richard is, then there's a house right after that, kind of a garrison. That system is a big fill system where the system's right up between the house and the road.
Yep.
And then you get.
That's where we were.
But that's not the little. This is not the one I'm talking about. Is where Jay Othier used to live. And it was the Othier house. It's a little tiny house. An old house. That's, in fact, it's got a lot of kids playing stuff in the backyard. And a dumpster on the other side of it.
This system was just off of Burnett Road, on the right-hand side, before the hill crests and heads down. But we were not off the top of the hill heading down.
Right, you were right. The house is right on the top of the hill just before it starts down.
Yep.
And that system, that soil coming up into that, and the house is kind of high, and there was a garage there, and then it drops off and down towards the swamp, and the system was down in that swampy area, and you saw there was a soil evaluator that actually went in there, Lee?
I don't know if Neil was in there or not.
No, I can answer that. They Bob Stover did a 4-foot hole just to show that the water table wasn't, it was below the stone. So he only went down 4 feet. So he definitely didn't go down far enough to see if he had 3 foot of separation.
Yeah, so that wasn't done right. So someone's got to go back and look at that one.
So you want a water table determination?
Yeah, we should do that. That's what we require.
Oh, that's fine. And you want, I'm assuming you want Lee there to witness.
For someone from the board to look at it. But I think if you look in there, you're gonna find glade soils.
Okay.
Yeah, because the house next door who was the fellow that used to be the drywall contractor?
Oh, that's down further. That's Hunter.
Yeah, because I remember
No,
Hunter's house. We poked around there with Bob Sheehan Sr. about 35 years ago, and we
Yeah,
found
but that's
glade
different.
soils.
That's different. soils. Winnie Little was down there too. She was a school nurse when I was
That's
a
right.
kid, but
Yeah, okay.
But
That's
those
right.
systems are right up next to the road, but if you look at the guy that's just to the south of where this house is, that guy's system had to go right up on the road, and he's got, in fact, if you look at Dakota Richards, that they're putting like 8 feet of soil in there,
Right,
that the water table is so high.
right.
So we'll just have to look and do a soil evaluation.
Okay, I'll get that scheduled.
Okay. Neil has been waiting for a very, very long time. And it's not even on our agenda, but it's on, Neil, is it 25?
25.
Now, we've got just Bill and Lee, if you recall on this house, we approved a pump system that was up near out from the street. Let's call it the front right corner of the property.
Yep.
And the new buyer wanted to put a garage in that area. And Neil moved the system, and he moved the system to the west, so away from Cold Hill Drive, towards the wetland. And
Yeah.
what he ended up doing is we allowed the system to go within, it wasn't 50 feet, but let's say within the 50 feet of the wetlands with the SAS.
Oh, it's all.
But the last time we talked about this, Neil had requested that we let him use Elgin systems with a 3-foot separation instead of 4 feet separation. And we said, now what happened here is we're giving on the wetlands, we don't want to give on water table separation. So Neil ended up putting a design that we approved that's got a pump with 4 feet of separation. So Neil is in tonight. Neil talked to me today, and he is asking that we reevaluate that, because the owner who's selling the property doesn't want to spend the money to put that system in.
Can I, hello?
Hello, hi.
Hi, that's the owner, Marlene.
Okay.
Yes. If I could address this with Mr. Bombardier and the board.
Sure, and the board.
I'm Marlene Bedell. I own the property here with my husband, Mike Dady. He cannot be here. He has dementia, and he would be very disruptive to your board right now. So it's just me. I have to sell the house because now I have to look for a facility for him. And it's a real financial hardship as to the plan. I'm begging to redesign it. This is my second design. I need to sell this house. I have to do all this by myself. It's just so disheartening that I have to do this. I've lived here for so long and just love Granby, but I can't afford it. We're on the brink of bankruptcy. I asked if I could have it moved to where we could afford it, and I'm hoping that we can redesign it to where I can afford it without the pump. And I'd be awfully grateful if this could happen. I'm just beside myself with having to think of all this, that I don't have my husband here to help me with. So I do have a person here that I've had for a longtime friend of my daughter, and she has a something that she would like to point out to you if I could put her on. Her name is Jennifer DeForge. I've known her since she's been 8 years old. So I really, I had to go to her for guidance because I don't know what's going on. It's such a financial hardship to begin with. I have to worry. I'm having to sell my car. That's how things are going right now. So I just need to get this done, and I need to sell this house. So I'm gonna give this over to Jennifer, and she will hopefully help out here.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Marlene. I do have a little presentation prepared, maybe to help us have a better discussion, if I could share my screen.
But in terms of what are you trying to do? Help us. Are you trying to
So-
convince us not to have the system go in, or are you
oh,
going
no,
over
no,
the
no.
finances? We really
Yeah.
don't need a presentation.
Right. I was just going to show you some the design details, because we definitely need a system here.
Yeah.
It failed.
And,
know?
and I'm not disputing
No.
that.
Yeah,
I'm just
I don't think the
disputing the cost.
presentation is going to be necessary.
Okay, Bill.
I was actually at the site with Neil
Yep.
and one of my colleagues on the Conservation Commission last week, and we kind of chit-chatted about the situation.
Okay.
And frankly, personally, I've looked at the situation, and I would be in favor of a water table reduction in this circumstance. That's my personal. I'm 1 out of 3.
Well, Bill, why don't, as I'm looking, before we really go at it in terms of what we're gonna allow or not allow, what this is being driven from a financial standpoint. And
Right.
when I asked Neil today if anybody had gone out and gotten prices, competitive bids, and Neil didn't think so. And the other is we're looking at a house that you're looking at spending money that's in front of you. If we're looking at and I have no idea what the house, but just for talking purposes, that if someone's lived in a house that they paid $20,000, $50,000 for 40 years ago, and selling the house for $400,000 right now, and saying we don't have any money, but shortly after you sell the house, you're going to have $350,000 to pay for it.
And with that money, I have to put my husband in a facility. I have no other money. That's why I'm selling the house. Otherwise, I would live here till I died. But I can't, because I can't take care of him. I can't take care of him any longer.
The funds are there to provide a new septic system, but a gravity-fed septic system. With the quotes that we did receive, because I've been helping Marlene through this process and working with Neil and Greg and other folks that I know in the industry, we can make the $31,000 gravity-fed system. It's the pump that's causing the financial burden, over $10,000 to $15,000 extra because of the existing conditions. There's an existing screened-in porch, there's existing decks that would need to be removed to get the electricity out for the pump system. It's not and if the pump was needed, if it wasn't a gravity fed, then of course we wouldn't be here, waiting 3 hours to speak to you and plead our case. But this is a really great, a very well designed, naturally gravity fed system. And I heard you talking.
You're not an expert. You're not the person that makes that decision.
No, I'm not, but I have talked to professional individuals in the industry, such as Neil Jackson, who's the engineer design on this project. I've talked to Michael McDowell, who I know is in the building code related area, but we reviewed the code, we reviewed the Board of Health regulations. And in the Board of Health regulations, I couldn't find, and you can obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but I couldn't find anywhere where it said it was a requirement to have a pump. And I don't know where that piece comes into play with a gravity fed system. So I've definitely done my
Well, what
research.
happens
No
right now
disrespect.
is you're really into the engineering part. You're not the engineer.
You're right.
And so that it's not a fair thing for us to be dealing with you saying that we have to teach you about pumps and not.
No,
And
I don't need
just
to be taught. I don't need to be
It's
taught.
headed towards 10 o'clock at night. I'd like to, Bill, your point is one that we should explore. You're the guy, the wetlands guy. You have a feeling that it's different than mine. My concern is that we've given on distance to the wetland, and we're now going down closer. So we're taking 2 levels of environmental protection, and we're not 1, but we're saying we're going to go 2, and we're doing this based on money, not on protection. And now
Oh, please,
that, Bill,
please.
what is your thinking?
My thinking, Dick?
Yeah.
Yeah. Neil, you're using an Elgin in drain?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Okay. Now, just, I know our board may not concur, but what is the design criterion for water table separation with Elgin in drain according to their documentation?
They will give up to a 2-foot reduction in offset to groundwater. And just for we're meeting the state requirement of 50 feet, and Granby has a 100-foot offset to the bordering vegetated wetland. But again, the Massachusetts code is very, very strict to protect the groundwater,
right.
and they say 50 feet. So I mean, and we're only asking for a 1-foot reduction, not to 2. That's allowable.
Right. And
Bill, when they do that, they're not looking at nitrogen removal. They're looking at, I believe, biological removal. And
if you look at 310 CMR, the wetland regs say 50 feet of separation from a VW is sufficient for environmental protection from the wetlands perspective, Okay, and you meet the 50 feet, Neil, correct?
Yes, we do.
We did that.
So, all right, so
Absolutely.
the talking point is the separation off the groundwater table. Now, do you have a shallow or deep well on this site?
He has an artesian well.
You have a deep well. Okay, that's a plus.
Yeah.
And the soils, I think, are it's a red pan glacial till up there, correct?
Yeah,
it is.
And just for clarification, every single abutting dwelling on that street has an artesian well.
Okay, and it's that's tight soil, and it's good filtering soil. It filters out contaminants, and it provides plenty of detention. It's not like it's a porous sand. It's a tight soil. Tight soils work to your benefit in this case.
Yeah. And the other thing that does go through you, Bill, is that the water that's going through here is probably ending up in that vegetation. And as long as this ends up staying up near the surface, that vegetation is going to do a good job on the nitrogen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not going directly to a stream.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Separation.
Go ahead, Lee.
Have we done this type of separation, or allowed this type of separation elsewhere, or is this the first one?
Neil, what are you looking for? What are you saying for separation right now?
3 feet.
2 feet.
No, I'm looking for a 3-foot separation.
Lee, we gave 3-foot separation for this design or similar design. We did it at the big white house, the Window World house.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
we,
yeah, that's right too. Yeah, okay.
we did it
So we've
on,
already been down this path.
on West Street. We also did it right across from West Street School. We did on the same the same situation, close to the same situation. It wasn't really, we weren't, the one on West Street is close to a wetland. In fact, it touches, there's some high soil there, so it's closer to a wetland. The one on 202, not especially close, but we really couldn't fit it in very, very well. So we have, if in both of those soils, the one on West Street probably isn't as good filtration, but Bill, from your standpoint, I know you don't like pumps anyway, still. So I know it, maybe it's even a little hidden agenda that you have that you don't like pumps. So, but if you look at this thing, I certainly see, if you go from your standpoint of saying, we've done this before, you look at Bill, from your standpoint of saying these soils can tolerate it, and even within our own regulation, we say that we can go 50 feet to a wetland rather than 100 on repairs. So if you look at that, and you do, without a doubt, Bill, you get rid of a pump. And in one case, you don't look at, I'm trying to avoid saying it's just cost. Look at the grief of owning a pump and maintaining a pump. So if you look at the next person that's going to own this thing, in terms of what we try to do is to pass along something to the next owner that's not going to be a problem, that we use this as a time to make sure we upgrade.
Did you?
And in this case, gaining the extra foot of protection, especially, Bill, going in your thoughts, especially when the extra foot of protection is Title V sand, which does very, very little for.
No.
So if you go to what you're saying, Bill, that you don't end up actually getting very much protection by going the extra foot. And definitely, if you look at what we're passing on to the next owner, definitely having a foot of sand does not give them anywhere near the benefit of not having a pump and the grief that goes along with a pump. It looks to me like the board would be doing a consistent, like dropping the foot of separation would be consistent what we're doing, what we've done before, be consistent with trying to provide the filtration to protect the environment, and consistent with passing on to the next owner a system that's better from their ownership standpoint. But I can move away from the stand of the 4 foot and move to 3 foot also. Is that, as a board, is that where we are right now, Bill and Lee?
Yes, that's where I am, Dick. I agree.
Lee?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, all the questions that I had have been answered quite well. So we're not setting precedent. We're doing something that we've done before. So yeah, I'm good at this point.
Richard, just to add to the meeting, I am going to be the next owner of this house, so I know exactly what's going on for the
Okay.
system. So we just
Okay.
wanted you to know that, and we much prefer not having to rip up a deck and having to deal with a pump system. So we
Okay.
greatly appreciate this conversation, and so does
Oh, good.
Marlene.
Oh, my God,
So
thank
that's
That's
what,
great. I'm glad we could help you
Colleen, that's
folks
what we're
out.
gonna do.
Yep.
And Neil, are you gonna adjust the design?
Yeah, I'll redesign. Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you so
So-
much. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah.
Thank you. It pains me to leave
welcome.
Granby, but
And we're sorry that that's a terrible reason to have to leave.
it
And
is.
I'm really sorry that you're having to go through what you're going to be going through.
Thank you so much. It's not easy to have to make all these decisions by myself when I've had my husband for so long to help me,
I'm sorry.
and now I have nobody. This is why I went to Jen to ask for help.
So
Thank you.
I'm so
Okay.
glad we could help you guys. I'm so happy.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I am
so
too,
much.
Very,
and
very good.
good
Very-
luck on your battle.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And it is a battle. Yes.
I can only imagine.
Yes. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thanks, Dick, Bill, and Lee. I appreciate it.
Okay, Neil, you got your work cut out for you, buddy.
That's okay. All right.
Okay.
It's a labor of love at this point.
That's
Thank you.
good.
All right.
No
Okay,
sleep
so
tonight.
just
Get to
so we
work.
understand what we're doing now is there going to be time to get this whole thing done? You can get it done, and as compared with our just approving.
Yeah, I'll get the new plan submitted for the next meeting.
Okay. Now for the
And
next
Neil, as we
meeting,
said on site, you do not have to come back to conservation. You're good.
Okay, great. Thank you.
okay, and I guess we're going to have to call it quits for tonight, huh?
All right, thank you. Have a great night.
Okay.
Thank you.
I
Neil.
am going to, Colleen, I'll talk to you, but I'm going to be on the Cape for the next meeting.
Okay.
I think I can still have it. I'll go, and I have coverage there. I just will move away from our guests, and we could, if you can, try to make it so it's not one of these meetings tonight.
Yeah.
I'll try.
Productive meeting though,
No.
Dick. Well done then, Lee. Productive meeting, everybody.
We
Yeah, very
actually
good.
got some stuff covered. So just
Yeah.
none of them,
Okay.
none was an easy thing.
That's exactly right.
No.
So Colleen, and I can go over it for the next meeting. If you can get everything that I need, I won't have any ability to copy anything starting on
Okay.
Saturday. So if you can get me whatever you can on Friday,
Okay.
so I can copy it before I leave.
Oh, okay. So I'll try to
Not this Friday, the following Friday.
the following Friday, and I'll try to email you everything by Friday.
Let's try not to let many people get on the agenda.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Actually, Colleen, when's the next meeting? Is it the second Tuesday of the month?
Yep.
See, I got a conflict anyway, Dick. I won't be there.
Is it really the second Tuesday? Is that right?
Yeah, I think when I have
It's the 10th,
interference, it
yeah.
usually 2 months in a row is usually the situation when we have interference, and this is the second of the 2 months.
Maybe what do we want to do for a meeting? Do we,
Well, if we have a super light agenda, if we could push it out either the following week or skip a meeting. So meet a month from tonight.
Colleen,
Neil's
let's
gonna
try
be-
that.
Neil's going to be looking for the approval.
Yeah, do
told
you wanna make it that that we said that we'll approve the design with a 3-foot separation and just let me review it and say that Colleen can approve it if Neil does it, if he just changes it to drop the 1 foot?
Yes, yes.
That works,
We'll
absolutely.
put that in the minutes for tonight, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll do
Yeah,
that, Colleen.
Yeah,
All right.
So once Neil gets it, we'll have to let Neil know that he can get it to us as soon as he can, and we'll get it done. I'll get it done and I'll review it, and
Okay.
we can,
all right.
and then you can issue the,
I'm supposed to see him tomorrow morning on North Street, so I can mention it to him.
oh, in fact, I'm gonna come and visit you on that perk test. That's my brother's in-laws. I just want to see what kind of stuff you're dealing with.
Okay, it's 8 a.m. I believe.
Yeah, 7:30, Neil said, so
Oh,
maybe
oh,
he's
all right
gonna
then.
start digging. As it turns out, I guess they did find the original design. So I just wanna
Okay,
take a look at what we see. I am absolutely in conflict, so I'm not involved with it. Just
I
looking.
get you. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So I'm just curious, and we'll have nothing to do with what happens other than to look.
I understand. Yep, I get it.
So, I'm
Okay,
guessing
guys,
this is-
good evening. Thanks again.
okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay,
Good night.
sleep
All right,
well.
good
Yeah,
night.
bye.
Shut us
Bye-bye.
off.
Yeah, bye.